Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, a lot of you have been asking me questions related with why do succulents drop their leaves. Now guys, there is not one particular reason why this happens. There could be various factors and that's what we are going to be talking in this video. So let's start with the most easiest one and which is not very harmful to the succulent, and that is basically when you tend to get a new succulent to your home or to your garden, you will eventually notice a lot of leaves, that is the lower leaves, they tend to dry up. Either they start to turn yellow and then they start to slowly turn brown and fall off the succulent. Now this is absolutely fine. There is nothing that you need to be panicked about. This is basically the succulent is trying to adjust in the new environment. Hence it starts to reject or dispose its older and mature leaves. Now this process is so that the succulent can conserve the energy in order to get acclimated and adapted to the new environment. So whenever you get your new succulents and you tend to pot them, initially you might happen to see one or two leaves that turn yellow, or if it's a larger succulent like a mother plant, you might tend to see even 5 of the lower leaves turning yellow and brown and then falling off. This is absolutely normal. The succulent is trying to get acclimated and adjusted in the new environment. Now the second scenario can be quite harmful and dangerous. This happens when you have overwatered your succulent. Now over here my Aguides has been overwatered, hence you can see that the leaves are turning yellow. They are turning soft and transparent, and over the period of time they will start falling apart. Now this can be quite dangerous. This indicates that you have overwatered your succulent, so you have to be extremely careful. When you start noticing that the lower leaves are turning yellow, they are turning transparent, you have to immediately stop watering your succulent, because if you're going to do further watering, the succulent will get rotted. These are the early signs stating that the succulent is telling you that it is being overwatered. So a lot of the lower leaves will start turning transparent yellow. They will be very mushy to touch, they will be very soft, and they will even start to fall the moment you touch them. Now guys, here this is an initial stage of overwatering because it was accidentally kept out and it was raining, so this particular Aguides received a lot of rainwater, due to which this is an early stage of overwatering. But if you start noticing that majority of the lower leaves are turning yellow, they are turning transparent and falling apart, then you immediately need to uproot the succulent and let the succulent roots dry. Please do not keep the succulent in the same pot if majority of the succulent leaves are turned transparent or have turned soft and yellow, or if the leaves have started to fall because of overwatering. You will have to immediately uproot the succulent and keep it for drying. This can be quite risky because you might never know how much of damage has already been done, but this is the last option that you can do in order to survive an overwatered succulent, only if you have noticed it in the early stage. So this is the reason why I always advise you to check your soil completely before you water it, because if you're going to overwater it, this is how the succulent is going to look like. The leaves will turn yellow, transparent, and will start falling off the succulent. Now let me quickly show you how the leaves tend to look. Now these are some other leaves that were from an overwatered succulent. You will be able to see how the leaves look like. You can see they are completely transparent. There is a lot of water that is collected in them. Apart from that, they are very soft to touch. They're very mushy. The moment you squeeze them, they immediately tend to get squeezed, just like how we tend to see grapes. So such leaves will easily get separated from the mother plant because they are so heavy with water. They are no longer able to hold on to the mother plant and they immediately start falling apart. Now guys, if you notice an overwatered succulent at an early stage, it's much better because over the period of time, all of the leaves will start turning like this. In most cases, it will start turning darker in color, which indicates that it has got rotted. So you need to be extremely careful whenever you tend to see maybe one or two of your leaves starting to look like this. You immediately need to cut down on the watering and do not add any more water for your succulent. So if you thought that overwatered succulent was only the problem, then you need to see an extremely underwatered succulent as well. Yes, even underwatered succulents which have not been watered for a really long time also tend to drop their leaves. Now this process of dropping of the leaves is called as the survival mode. What happens over here is, because the succulent is getting deprived of water, there is not much water left. They have consumed almost all the water from the leaves. The leaves start to get wrinkled. Now in order to survive, what the succulent does over here is it starts dropping off the old mature leaves in order to protect the crown area, in order to promote growth on the crown area. It will start shedding all the leaves that are on the lower part of the succulent. So you have to be extremely careful. That is the reason why you need to have a balance wherein you do not need to overwater them. At the same time, you do not want to keep them underwatered for a really long time. However, underwatered succulents are much safer compared to the overwatered succulent, but that does not mean that you're going to completely keep them underwatered for a really long time, because even that can be a problem, wherein if you have extremely underwatered your succulent, that again can be a problem. And if you belong to a place which is warm and humid, and if you're going to keep your succulents extremely dehydrated or extremely underwatered, then you are going to have another problem, and that is called as dry rot. Now dry rot is exactly same like overwatered succulent rot. In both cases, the succulent gets destroyed completely. In both the dry rot as well as in an overwatered succulent rot, you definitely cannot save the succulents once they get completely rotted. So you have to be extremely careful. Do a routine check. If you want, you can always maintain a book wherein you can write down when was the last time you watered your succulents. I know it's going to be a little bit of efforts, but if you want to keep your succulents healthy, you can try and follow this. Now after this video, I am going to definitely go ahead and give it a good soak so that it starts to get plump. Apart from all this, there is another reason as well wherein you'll tend to see leaves falling off. Now this is in case when you do your stem cuttings or when you do a beheading and you're waiting for the succulent to callus, you're waiting for aerial roots. Again, in this scenario as well, you will tend to see a lot of leaves will get dried off and start to fall. Now the reason behind this is because the roots are not present yet. The succulent is trying to conserve the energy and the water in the leaves until the aerial roots or the roots start to appear. Now guys, it's not only because of aerial roots, but even if you tend to put a cutting after it has been calloused and you put it into the dry soil, after few days you will find some leaves that will fall off. That is again very normal. It is nothing to be worried about. This is basically that the succulent is again getting adjusted to the new soil because it has just been done with a cutting and now it's waiting for new roots. This is same the one that we spoke about the first topic, wherein a succulent comes in new and it's trying to get adjusted. So the same process applies to this as well, because we have done a cutting. So the succulent basically has to go through the entire process once again. But again, there is nothing to be worried about. As you can see over here, even mine cuttings have started to drop off the leaves. But again, it's not a lot of leaves. Probably it will be 1 or 2 or maybe 3, maximum 3 or 4 leaves that are going to be the lower leaves that are going to fall. And that is absolutely normal. Another reason can be lack of light. Yes, lack of light can also make the succulent drop off its leaves. Like here, as you can see, this is basically Echeveria hameli that was not getting a lot of light initially. Though the succulent looks very beautiful, it looks very different. It doesn't even look like Echeveria hameli. But this is one of the variety that has not received a lot of light, due to which it started to stretch. And as you can see, all the base leaves have started to drop off. Now the reason why this happens is because over here the succulent is struggling to get light, and you can see there is a good amount of growth on the tips or on the crown area. Now what happens over here is, as the succulent is growing and is getting stretched, someone had asked me whether stretching is bad for succulents. It's absolutely bad for succulents. It's not healthy for your succulents. As you can see over here, all of the leaves on the lower part of the stem have dropped off and only there is growth on the crown area. Now why does this happen is because over here the succulent is trying to search for light. So what the succulent tends to do over here is it starts sending in all the energy to the crown area so that the crown area can be protected, the crown area can grow healthy. So it starts sending in all the water, nutrients, everything to the crown area, whereas the leaves that are there at the lower part of the stem do not receive any kind of energy from the succulent. Hence those leaves tend to fall off because the succulent feels that those lower leaves are of no use to it, because it's sending in all the power, all the energy to the crown area, due to which the lower leaves will all start to fall off and it tends to look like this. Now guys, this is not very healthy for the succulent because majority of the leaves tend to fall off. Only the crown area tends to remain healthy, and the remaining part of the stem that you see is starting to turn brown. And in most cases, these brown stems will not produce any more leaves, even if you tend to put it out in morning direct sunlight, or even if you tend to give it a good amount of light, it will still not produce any more leaves. The last option what you can do is, if you do not like a succulent that tends to look like this, you can probably do a stem cutting. But usually what happens in this case is the remaining part of the stem that is present in the pot usually tends to dry out. This is what I have noticed in my past experiences. But however, when you do a stem cutting of or a beheading of this kind of a succulent, the crown area tends to grow and tends to put out new growth. And the remaining part of the stem which is present in the pot usually tends to dry out. So guys, it's completely up to you whether you tend to like succulents like this. You can keep them as it is, or probably if you want to do a stem cutting, you can go ahead and do that. Now the final reason for your leaves to fall, let's say that you have taken care of everything, you have done a proper watering, you have given it enough amount of sunlight, your succulent has been with you for quite some time, but still the leaves are starting to fall off at a faster rate. Now guys, this could be related with excess nutrients in the soil. At times when you have added too much of nutrients in the soil, it tends to make your succulent weak, and that is going to make the succulent drop off the leaves. Especially if you are using a fertilizer or a nutrient that are high in nitrogen, then it will burn the succulent roots, which will affect in dropping of the leaves. So you need to be extremely careful. Do not over fertilize your succulents. You can only fertilize your succulents during its growing period, and that is only once a month or once in 2 months. Do not over fertilize your succulents, otherwise again it is going to make your succulent weak. It is going to make your succulent drop off the leaves. At the same time, it can even burn the succulent and the succulent roots. So you need to be extremely careful on this part as well. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.